Right then, so we've hit 3 p.m. and here we are. Hello everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I think we've got participants from all corners of the globe here with us this afternoon, which is pretty cool. And it's great that so many of you have turned up today for our inaugural ChatTalent event. I've been had a rather sleepless night last night, worrying about whether anybody would turn up. So I'm really grateful that we've had a fair amount of numbers, which is awesome. I'm Alan Walker. I'm your host today. I'm one of the co-founders of the Talent Finders. I describe as an innovative talent solutions business, quite shamelessly. And I'm also that rather noisy chap you might have come across on LinkedIn. This is the first of our events, and hopefully the first of many that we're hoping is going to add some real value to everyone who attends over the coming months. We're very excited about the lineup we've got planned for the next few sessions, which will cover a broad range of topics across the whole talent spectrum. But enough of the future and my shameless plugging. Let's talk about what's happening today and why you're here. So I'm really pleased that Danielle Kennedy from Learning Heroes has agreed to speak to us today. Learning Heroes are an award-winning e-learning content provider. Danielle is going to talk to us about some of the effective tactics that they've seen their customers use to improve learner engagement. At the end of her session, we'll be answering any questions you have, which can be submitted through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And just try and hold off those questions until near the end if you can, just in case Danielle covers them off through the presentation. And we'll get through as many as we can, of course, but we will be wrapping up bang on time. We understand you're busy people and have other things to go to, and we appreciate your time, of course. If there are any questions we don't get time to answer, we'll follow up with the person who asked them after the event. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Danielle, it's over to you now.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Excellent. It's great to be here this afternoon. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys so that you can obviously see everything that I'm showing you this afternoon. So hopefully you're all here for a chat on learner engagement. If you're not, then I won't see you leave. So it'd be great if any questions at the end, that would be brilliant. And obviously Alan will pass them through to me. So as Alan said, I'm Danielle Kennedy. I'm from Learning Heroes. And my actual title is the Customer Delight Manager. So I do get a few laughs at that point, but as I can't hear you, I'll assume you're laughing. So basically people always think, oh, well, what's that got to do with learning and development? Well, I suppose my kind of background is in learning and development, and I've been brought in as like an internal consultant, if you will, to all of our customers. So I basically speak to a lot of learning and development professionals, just like you, on a daily basis, going through their plans and things like that. So we've got almost 500 customers now, and I've seen a lot of different things in different organisations in different sectors. So what I want to do today is just share that with you and basically see what you think, and hopefully you'll get a few ideas from me and something we can obviously discuss in the future. So I'm going to go through 10 ways, but it's kind of just going to be a bit more conversational than a list, really. So first of all, really, I'd just like to kind of ask you, so what does learner engagement mean to you? So it's quite easy to say, oh, here's a load of training materials, get everyone trained. So it's actually a bit more difficult to actually do it. So we could just sit there writing lines like, I must engage my learners, but what's the secret? So what we actually believe here is that there isn't one, basically. So how many guides can you listen to? So your industry is obviously different. Your culture is unique to exactly what you guys feel and do in your business. And sometimes learning objectives set by kind of senior management and people that aren't in learning and development are actually light years away from what all these tried and tested methods actually talk about. So what we try and do is we get our best ideas on engagement from our customers, and then I'm going to share them with you. So the very first thing is obviously it's very important to tailor your training plans. And as you can see by that little image, that's a tailor. She's not trying to cover anything up there. So with our launch strategies and learner engagement to every organisation. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few more things with you. So sometimes as learning and development professionals, we try to ensure that we provide the best resources and options for our workforce, but it can seem like we're running on an endless treadmill. And if we actually think about learning something instead of ticking a box, then what are we actually achieving? So I just want to ask you to think about the word learning, which hopefully you think about quite regularly anyway. So does it mean attending a course or a seminar or saying you've completed it? I very much doubt that, as obviously we are learning professionals and we want people to actually change behaviourally. So it's more about takeaway messages and what resonates with you and what you remember and what you use. So hopefully that's the same for your learners, and it definitely will be. So now if you think about the word engagement, so obviously not in the marriage sense, but if you are kind of truly engaged in something, it means that there's no distractions, you've immersed yourself in something and you get out exactly what you put in, so you're engaged. I actually went and looked up the word engagement and actually produced some interesting kind of findings. So words such as attract, promise, occupy, commit and absorb came up there. So that actually made me really consider it in a learning setting, in a world where now technology has created a culture of instant gratification. So let me ask you, when was the last time you committed some time being truly absorbed in anything with no distractions, no phone, or no chance that anybody could interrupt you? And all you're thinking about is that one thing. It's probably not achievable, not in this day and age when there's so much stimulus around us. So if we really think about it, we're trying to achieve something or trying to encourage our learners to do something that's not only difficult, but something we might not even be able to do ourselves. So combining the two, learning and engagement, will mean somebody is completely absorbed in an activity which resonates with them, and then they act differently as a result. That is what we all want. So as you can see here, this little man has taken a working at height course. He's got all the PPE on, well, mainly he's got a bit of a cape on, but he's actually taken something from the course and he's acting differently as a result. So I suppose as learning advocates, what shall we do? So we've obviously got an ever-growing list of things to do, targets to meet, and all we really want is people to enjoy learning, actively participate, and then perform differently. So we can obviously listen to all the experts who tell us exactly how learning engagement is achieved, which I'm not trying to do today. I'm just obviously sharing some ideas. And we can obviously follow expert advice. So we can stick to our KPIs, which I know is very, very important. But sometimes when set by companies without necessarily a positive learning culture, and it's more about ticking a box, we're going to get squashed. And at the end of the day, what is a KPI without behavioural change? It doesn't actually mean anything. We can obviously read some good manuals, journals, or blogs on how people have done it and how easy it is to integrate. But again, is it easy to integrate when your culture is so different, when you know your own challenges? So obviously these points have value, but we've not, again, got to the crux of the issue. How do we add value by encouraging learning and creating behavioural change? So my first suggestion would be to throw away the KPIs. Now, I'm sure either your health and safety department or your board might not agree with blowing them up or, in fact, throwing them away. But what I mean here is think of KPIs after you've thought about the opportunities for learner engagement. So if you don't get learners to actively take on board like the training opportunities that you're offering and implement them in the right way, having 100% of people attend a mandatory course will mean absolutely nothing for you. So you need them to act in a certain way before you start ticking the box. So now I know everyone will already do this bit, but we should listen to our learners. How much learner feedback actually gets taken on board and real changes are made actually based on what they want. So we've had plenty of customers start learner forums, for example. What do people actually want to learn? So you get people within your organisation to sit there, talk about what they want to learn and how they want to learn about focus groups. So you could either get your management to put together a focus group on how they see learning and what to do as a result. Evaluations. Now, a lot of people will do course evaluations, but how many of them actually get shoved to the back of the agenda? So, oh yeah, somebody filled in an evaluation, we marked it out of 5, we've got a 4, we're all right there. When in fact we can always make improvements, and actually seeing what people say during an evaluation process and actually reacting to it is going to be top of the list for things to do. So this is a point which somebody once said to me in a previous life. So it was react to the culture that you have, not the culture that you want. So everyone has their ideals, the changes we need to make to create a positive learning culture, and that'll be different depending on your ideals. But are you actually responding to your learners' needs? So are you responding to your existing culture, or are you actually trying to create a new one? And that's something that really resonates with me, and that I actually had to think about each time I've gone into a different business and talked to a different business about the changes they want to make. So we can all be forgiven for wanting to put our stamp on things by doing things differently. But what if actually doing things differently is actually just engaging with our learners so that they engage back? You hear a lot about active listening. So why don't we put our egos to one side and get totally immersed in the culture that already exists? Only that way can we obviously make it better and work towards the culture that we want. People won't obviously trust us to make any changes. They won't trust us to be advocates of learning if we don't put the trust in them to actually respond to us and say, this is what I want. So I suppose a few ideas here on different types of learners, different types of organisations. So here's our little guy again with his hard hat on. I come from a construction background, so I'll always start off with things that obviously relate to things I've done previously. So construction, manufacturing, agriculture. I always encourage our customers to uptake our Toolbox talks. Now, obviously, that's delivering what you need to do face to face. So your supervisors are ensuring understanding and engagement on the ground with people, and they can actually see when that translates into practice. So the people that aren't on computers, the hands-on people that you need in the foundation of your business, may not respond to a shiny new LMS or gamification. So with those sorts of people, you need to go back to basics. And if we listened in the first place, that was probably what they were asking for. So then, I suppose, on the flip side, there's our little guy with the tablet. So you might be in an organisation with loads of remote employees, so accessibility is the main thing that you need to focus on. So making learning materials available on the go, on tablets, on phones, at any time of the day is exactly what you need to do. So if a learner's ever said to you, like, I don't have time because I'm always driving, it's when you might need to think things outside the box. So I'll give you an example of something that I once did. I had a sales executive who said, I don't have time, I'm driving to this course, it's going to take me 4 hours to drive there. So I don't have time to do the pre-learning, he said. So I was like, okay, what we'll do here then is I found an audio book for him and asked him to listen to the audiobook en route to the training instead of doing the pre-work. So again, I probably was curving around the KPIs. He hasn't ticked the box, he hasn't done the pre-work, but he's listened to an audiobook based on that particular topic. And when he actually took the course, he was the highest performer. So what we learned there is that he didn't have a necessary advantage over anybody else, but it was thinking of something that adapted to that individual's lifestyle and how they worked as well. And it was actually something that I used regularly after that point. So that was a personal one anyway that's thrown in there, but it was something that I've definitely used again and would encourage you to use, just thinking about different things. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to tick the box. You want to ensure that your people in your business are actually learning and taking information in. So one of the ways, another lot of our customers are through recorded webinars, just like this. So it seems particularly popular in tech and financial services sectors with a high concentration of people who are computer savvy. Again, putting yourself in their world where they are comfortable will massively increase your engagement. So personally, IT is not my thing, but if you find yourself in a world where you're the alien, adapting to their culture is the only way you're going to really get results. So you're asking people to get out of their comfort zone, but you kind of need to get out of yours first. So that's what we've seen with those sorts of kind of learning and development people, but in more tech roles. So another one of the ways that I really like that our customers integrate kind of content and learning opportunities is into their appraisals and one-to-ones. So this is obviously where we need non-L&D managers buy-in. So if another part of the HR function looks after appraisals, obviously we need to incorporate those learning options in every one-to-one, so have that conversation. So we need to challenge our managers of people to develop high-performing teams, which we do. And we need them to goal set, we need them to achieve high team targets. But then this is where we often talk about two learning opportunities. So firstly, the manager, do they know how to set goals? Are they comfortable with having difficult conversations? Are they respected as a leader? So all of these can be remedied by the correct learning options available to that individual manager. And secondly, the team member. So when setting objectives, how are they going to get to their goal? They'll need to change the behaviours in some way to achieve the targets. Learning how to and then implementing it is the only way this will be successful. So right there, just adding learning options into your appraisals, you've engaged learners twice without even being present, the non-L&D manager, the line manager, and also the learner who's actually needing to improve the performance. So we have our little guy now with someone there saying skill of the month. So this is one of the most popular ways in which I talk to my customers about all the time. So a skill of the month campaign can be anything. But obviously, to give you an example, you would maybe split a title down into into 4. So you are focusing on a title, but you may find that you want different ways of learning, so which obviously will resonate with different people. So from an e-learning example, so your first week you may release an e-learning content so that goes out to everybody in your business. The second week you might think, do you know what, that's touched however many people, but I want it to kind of go a bit further. So the next week you may release an infographic or some information posters around the business. The third week, you might look into something different. You might look into actually hosting a workshop, again, around the same topic. And then the final week, you can round that up and you can have lots of different options. You can cover the e-learning again. You can have a few videos thrown in there. You could host a Fix It Friday, which has been a really, really popular thing as well, all in 1 month. And what a lot of customers do is they actually set out for the entire year their skill of the month. So every single month they've got a brand new thing to focus on. So it's been very, very popular. And just having those different ways of learning each week has really, really pushed up engagement. So it's something that a lot of people do like to do. And it is one of my favourite ways to actually get that learning out there and make sure everyone's using different ways of learning. So as you can see, our little superhero there is holding a little trophy above his head. So this is just representing learning champions. Now, you may already have change champions in your business, or you may already have learning champions. Now, the way that these have worked really, really well within organisations that I've spoken to is if these learning champions are actually nominated, so by line managers or by somebody in senior leadership. So what I mean here is that you would identify someone as potential talent, and you would say, right, they're going to create a community here. So again, it's about you delegating to these people. You would roll out any training to them first, any learning opportunities to them first, and you would have this open dialogue of feedback of what they thought. One particular instance where it's really worked well is where you would incentivize your learning champions in different regions of your business. So if you had 10 regions, for example, you would have 10 learning champions. They would then promote course material for you. They would promote that learning culture. And you've actually created a community of people that you can actually lean on and really promote the content, really promote every single learning opportunity. So you're delegating, you're creating that force behind you to actually achieve your learning objective and actually tick off those KPIs that we mentioned that we were going to run away from earlier. So this little character on the end, it doesn't actually resemble anyone that we're supposed to talk about, but he is there for a real reason. So a really good way to actually engage people is to discuss things that are actually going on in the media or in your industry. So to use an example of something that really worked well for a leadership kind of program for one of our customers, is they focused around the presidential election in America earlier this year. And what they did is they promoted a few of our titles with that, so inspirational leadership and the mindful leader as well. So regardless of your opinion or who you voted for or anything like that, it was the hot topic. Everybody was talking about it. So why would you pass up the opportunity to provide learning opportunities to your learners, to the people in your business, when there's something so big going on in the world? So the inspirational leadership course really took off, and as did the mindful leader. Also equality and diversity as well. So if we promote something based on what is going on in the world, everyone has something to say about it. Everyone's on Facebook and Twitter talking about these things. So why not encourage your learners to talk about it too? Encourage the people in your business to get immersed in why these things are happening and actually give them that little bit of a deeper understanding of what's going on. So that's just a particular example which has worked really well. So before I came onto this webinar, what I wanted to do is actually ask my network, ask my learning and development managers, what did they think was the most challenging thing about learner engagement, and also what would you tell your younger self to do differently? And the most common element that seemed challenging to almost everyone was having an abundance of training materials, but using them in different ways to ensure every learning style is engaged does seem like an impossible task. There just isn't enough time in the day, but I was probably a bit cheeky and told them, we'll take our time management course then, but obviously that's by the by. But the most interesting thing that I did find when posed with the question, what would you tell your younger self to do differently? Every single one came back with the word listen. So listen to my learners, listen to what they're telling me, listen to how they learn. And then, to be fair, I think that goes right back to the point, react to the culture you have, not the culture that you want. So if we just replace the word react with listen, we're going to start seeing some changes in our engagement levels. We have to change our behaviour instead of just assuming we are right, which sometimes for a few of us that might not be the easiest thing to do. It's just coming to the end, really. I just want to summarise a few of the things that I've said there, so hopefully that you can look back on that. So the first thing, obviously, I suggested was to kind of throw away the KPIs. We've got humans that we're dealing with here, not robots, and we can't be always marked against numbers to decipher performance. Performance is one thing, ticking a box and ticking off KPIs are two completely different things. So the second one is listen, so run focus groups, do evaluations, run learning spot checks, and always make sure that you follow up. The third point was obviously around culture, so react to what you have, and then try to change it if it needs to, but actually tend to your learners' needs in the culture and the environment that they're already in. The fourth point was around Toolbox talks, delivering them face-to-face and using all the available content around you to actually deliver those things, mainly in a health and safety setting, but it does work for a lot of other things. The fifth point was around accessibility. If you've got remote people, don't just stick to tried and tested methods. Use things like audiobooks, online tests, projects, different apps and things like that. So you can find an app that'll cover a book in 7 pages. So, for example, the app Blinkist. If you wanted your learners to read a book, but they didn't have time to read a book, it kind of covers it in, 15 minutes? If you wanted to read an entire book, and then they'll come in and say they've read a book, but you know that you provided that option for them. The sixth point was obviously around webinars, using tech, gamification, if it fits. Obviously, we know what the next big thing is, but if your organisation isn't ready for it, then there's no point in forcing it just because it's the next big thing. The seventh point was around appraisals and one-to-ones. So what we need to do is we need to equip managers with and upskill them with the options to set objectives for personal development of their team. And then they'll be able to see the actual development that they create and behavioural change as a result. So the 8 point was around your learning champion. So that's a really good way of immersing learning culture into your business and making sure that people actually give back and are recognised for their talent and obviously contribution to your business. Another point was around the skill of the month. Again, that breakdown of how we can actually deliver training in different ways, make sure learners are engaged by giving them different options on how to engage with any learning content. And finally, it was listen again. So what I'd ask you today is, what would you actually tell your younger self, and maybe try and think about that as well. So thank you for listening to me today. I hope you liked the style of the presentation. This is pretty much what our e-learning looks like, but with a less Northern English voiceover. But most importantly, hopefully I've given you one idea to go away with at least. And if you'd like to discuss anything further, obviously you can ask questions now, or obviously we can connect via LinkedIn or whatever and speak further. So if Alan would like to jump back in, if you've got any questions.
I do, yes. Thank you, Danny. That was brilliant. I think it was really succinct. You covered off some really interesting points there, particularly for me, who isn't an out-and-out learning specialist. And I've certainly learned something from this particular event. And we've got 3 questions so far, and I think more are coming in as we speak. So I'm going to just run through these in order. I think we've got plenty of time to cover these off. So the first one is from Mustafa Shalash. Mustafa wants to know, Danny, when people are asked what they want to learn, how do we ensure that that aligns up to corporate priorities and strategy?
Well, I think you've got to assess what your strategies are and how you can mould that into what people want to learn. And also don't be afraid of giving them too much opportunity to learn just because something is not on your list of things. I mean, like I mentioned, we're humans at the end of the day. We want to learn about things that is in our nature. So if you, as a learning and development professional, can give somebody help in learning about something that doesn't necessarily feature on your list, I would personally just help them learn about that and give them the options again. And because all you're doing is creating that learning culture, and that's going to pay you back further down the line. So if it's not on your list, support them anyway, I would say.
So there's the benefit there is just creating that more human interaction, I guess, and getting people encouraged by learning. And then when you are asking them to do stuff that is more aligned to particular strategies or priorities, they're more willing and more open to doing it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so the next question is from Paul McEachny, if I've pronounced that correctly, Paul. Apologies if not. How do we show that learning is not just a face-to-face session? So how do you evidence that to people who are very used to doing face-to-face training?
I think maybe doing a face-to-face over a Skype call or something like that. You've got to kind of ease them into it, but also give them options. Tell them your issue. So if it is a financial issue that you can't actually get around to everybody to do face-to-face training, it's showing them the benefit of not doing face-to-face training and actually realising that yourself. If it's something that needs to be there in person, so like I said, I came from a background of construction where you literally have to be face-to-face with somebody to operate machinery, for example. That has to be learned. But giving somebody the benefit of why it doesn't have to be face-to-face and allowing them to see that might be worth exploring. But then also, like I mentioned, maybe you consider why does it have to change? Why does it have to not be face-to-face anymore? Is it a timing issue? Again, is it a resource issue? So it's actually finding out which is the best way to work from that. So either of you could be right, probably both of you are, but it's just exploring different ways around it, I think.
Okay, good. So our next question is from George Monson. How do you engage learners with training programs that they're not that interested in, but actually are required to attend? So how do you get them infused in that type of thing?
That's exactly where I would implement finding out what they are interested in, finding out how they learn, and again, finding out what your business needs. So obviously there's always going to be mandatory training that people aren't interested in, but that's just obviously the nature of the beast that we're involved in. So what I would say is finding out how they learn, and yes, it is a big job to find out how every individual in your business learns. That isn't realistic. but giving them different options. So if you wanted to do face-to-face training, then do it that way. If you want to do a bit of e-learning, if they learn better reading, if they learn better one-to-one, then you can engage the people like your learning champions, you can engage people who are more on the ground. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it, but it's adapting that style, adapting different things to make something that is mundane seem a lot more exciting, which is kind of what our business model is really, which we've turned a lot of kind of policy and compliance stuff into more fun, engaging kind of e-learning content and stuff. And again, it's cutting things down. It's cutting things down to make sure that everybody's staying engaged and just really just seeing what they want from it.
Cool, excellent. And a question from Rich here. I'm not sure of your surname, Rich. I've just got Rich77. What are the analytical techniques you can use that will point you towards how you treat a particular subject that you're trying to develop some learning around, and inform the kind of methods and media that you use? So how do you decide on the best approach?
Again, I would say go back to what already exists in your business. Assess whether it works. If you aren't getting high engagement levels, assess what is out there. Have a look at your options, and then actually try and test different things. We have a lot of people who trial our content, for example, before they buy, really, just to see it. Run pilot schemes on things, and make sure that and run your focus groups. Run your focus groups, run your pilot schemes, and make sure that people are engaging. Find those people who aren't engaging or those people who are resistant, and try with them as well.
Good, good. I've got two questions here that are kind of similar, so I'm going to summarise them. One's from Chris Britton and one from Pam Floyd. So you mentioned there, Danny, about ditching the KPIs. And so if L&D do remove KPIs, how will they prove the ROI and return on investment back to their business? And apologies, the second question wasn't Pam, it was Laura. Was asking the ROI question. We'll come on to Pam's next.
Yeah, of course, and that's the main thing that everybody asks us, isn't it? What's the return on investment? Now, it depends how openly you can have that conversation, but we're talking about human behaviours. So how can you quantify human behaviour? All you can do is encourage behavioural change. So you can provide everything that you need to, but you need to see a difference in performance. Yes. And by doing that, you just need to run some like pilot schemes and things like that. Make sure, like, test your market, test your learners on how much engagement you've received from certain activities, and then show how much investment you've actually put into that and the actual difference it's made, which is why I said put it into your performance reviews and things like that, and then you're actually judging whether people's behaviours have changed as a result. It's actually educating other people who aren't in learning and development. And yes, I might have to report on the ROI, but what we need to report on is less accidents as a result of training, as a result of our learners actually learning what they need to and having behavioural change as a result. It's just having the guts to have that conversation and basically saying, if this is not achieving a number on a screen or on a piece of paper, we need to actually observe the behaviours that are changing in the business. And if you have a quantifiable change, as in there hasn't been any accidents in the last X number of weeks, days since we implemented this training, it's quantifying all of that behavioural change and making sure people understand that.
So directly pinning training to measurable business outcomes, whether that's performance improvements or health and safety or better client interactions and relationships, whatever it might be, it's much better to link those two things together. And I'm guessing that's not rocket science either, I don't think. It can take work, absolutely, up front, but I think once you've kind of nailed the technique, I think it becomes second nature. So Pam Floyd's question now. How would you overcome an objection from a candidate or learner if they decided halfway through a course that they didn't want to continue? And the example she gives is a quite a long piece here, so around a 12-month apprenticeship. So how would you tackle an objection?
So I suppose that would be on a one-to-one basis with that particular person. Find out what their motivations are, find out why they don't want to learn anymore, and actually delve deeper into that person's reasons for not wanting to continue the learning process. Is it something that we can address? So I know you mentioned apprenticeship, so that might be something that obviously has to be delivered in a certain way to achieve the results that you need to obviously sign off an apprentice. But is there anything that you can do? Is there anything extra that you can provide to encourage this person to enjoy the learner journey anymore? There might be something that's stopping them. Again, it could be something personal, and we have to work through those things. But are you that person's direct line manager? Do you have influence over it? Or are you just getting a name on a piece of paper of this person who's cancelled? It's actually delving into those reasons why and treating people as humans, not as learners. Obviously, people have issues. People don't want to do things that other people do, and it's just getting to the crux of the reason why, I expect.
Excellent. Great question here from Georgia, and this is a very hot topic across, I think, the whole talent spectrum here. Given that people have a very short attention span nowadays, and all the information we have to absorb, which you covered off in your presentation, Danielle, from various mediums and channels and learning, etc., some virtual learning sets even become inefficient because of the length of them, and are not always attractive. How do you see virtual learning evolving in the future, particularly to appeal to millennials and Gen Z?
I think we've got to take into consideration that learning isn't a set time scale. So you can't say, right, you are going to learn now and give people an hour. So basically what you would need to do in that situation is think about how they can learn at different times over the day, over the week, over the month. So with, like, say, attention spans, people watch videos on YouTube for something like 7 seconds before they move on. So it's actually having things around. So from a personal point of view, what I've told some of our customers to do is actually use the trailers and things like that around the business, on your TV screens, on your actual laptop screens and things like that, running things so that people can't actually escape learning. It's actually all around them, and all learning opportunities, should I say. And so you can't encourage somebody, you can't say, right, you're going to sit in this classroom and learn for an hour. You can also not say, you're going to watch this e-learning video and you're going to learn. You have no control over that. So as we progress through time, and obviously new technologies and things like that, it's actually making them available and making people want to interact with it, and giving so many opportunities that people do react with it, even if it is for a few seconds. They've seen it, they've seen your content, they know, they've seen a poster, and obviously posters are a bit old school, but then obviously we're moving into virtual things, so anything on a platform, things like that. So you turn on your computer screen and something is in the background of your computer screen, and that is again linked to your learning. Again, all links back to like your skill of the month stuff. You can create learning anywhere at any time, learning options anywhere at any time, and people will engage with it at some level at some point. So there's so many options. It's just making those times available.
I guess it's almost like advertising. You need to be multi-channel nowadays. You need to try lots of different techniques and approaches, and hope that there'll be something for everybody, or at least a fair chunk of people, and then listen to the ones that aren't engaging and find out what other opportunities there are to engage with them in a way that will suit them. Okay. Question from Carl. Carl would like your opinion on whether mobile devices for e-learning are a practical thing or not, and particularly with the different screen sizes people have, poor Wi-Fi connections, etc.
Yeah, so I suppose from a business point of view, we've got the option where you can actually save things to computers, to tablets, to phones and things like that. So when it comes to like your Wi-Fi connection, etc., that would hopefully not be a problem. And again, it's actually speaking to the people who are in charge of that sort of stuff in your business, to your IT people, actually just engaging with them and getting their support and making sure that it is available to people. So like say, if you were in factories, for example, and you wanted people to interact with the TV screens that they have the daily targets on and things like that, using them. But that's, again, say something on a memory stick and put it into a screen. That would work just as well as somebody doing something live on like any e-learning or on a webinar or anything like that. So it's just thinking of ways that technology can help you as well.
Brilliant. And a question from Kat Hayes. How would you answer the questions from learners where they say we don't have time?
So touching a bit on what I said before, so if you think about it, everybody has time, it's just what they prioritise. So if somebody is on Facebook and they're talking about something, again, in the media, give them the option to find out more about that. If they are driving a lot, like I said, give them some options to play an MP3 in the car, or provide memory sticks for people to just have in the computer. You can record like a radio channel. Recently, I was listening to one of the learning radio channels just while I was working. So I was actually working on something and actually listening at the same time. So the relevant parts were obviously sinking in, and then obviously I tuned in and tuned out. But at least you're providing those different options all the time. So again, people have time, it's just a matter of priority, and if you're actually giving them something that develops them and focuses on them, then they will engage and they will want to learn.
Great. So a question from Scott Carrick here. How would you push managers away from viewing training as a punishment for poor performers in a money-orientated sales environment?
Right. I think obviously if you're in a sales environment, incentives do work, but obviously you don't want to just incentivize people to learn, because you want it to be a development opportunity for themselves. I would definitely encourage a learning culture across your business. So again, I'm sure some of your salespeople will be high performers and want to do well in the business. So that's where I'd encourage you to add your learning champions in there. Get people on the ground. Peers work better than managers in these situations. If you've got somebody in your team who's excited about learning, who's actually proven that they've taken a course on how to improve their sales, how they close a deal, and they've actually resulted in higher sales, therefore higher commission, then there's nothing better than an example of somebody on your level and things like that, which is why the learning champions has worked so well throughout a lot of the businesses. So it's just a case of getting into kind of the hearts and minds of your people and getting those people to support you.
Perfect. So we're going to do one last question because we're getting near to the end of time, and the actual question topic is quite relevant to time. This is a good one. So this is from Adam. Adam would like to know, how would you encourage people to do e-learning in their own time?
Well, I could give you a full sales pitch here and tell you we make it not boring and we make it intriguing and all of that sort of stuff, but I'll try not to. So it's basically, again, making sure that you're actually fulfilling something in their life and not just saying, right, you need to complete this, and then they say, oh, I've not got time in work, so I'll go and do it at home. So it's actually making it attractive. What we do is we try and make it short and to the point and funny and things like that. So it's actually not a chore to sit there, like you're not clicking through slides or anything like that. You're actually interacting with something. And then even providing things that are available on people's phones and on people's iPads and things like that. Quite a lot of people just sit and see if it will work, and then when they do, they actually go through it. But it's, again, maybe try a few incentives around it. Say, oh, if you test your connection tonight at 6 o'clock, see what comes on. You can set secret missions and things like that. So it's about getting a bit creative with it and kind of just encouraging people to realise that learning is actually their responsibility. It's not your responsibility as a learning and development professional. It's their responsibility as a human to develop themselves. So as long as people realise that, then they shouldn't see it as a chore. But again, it's making that shift in culture, really.
Excellent. So that's the last question, everybody. We've got about 7 or 8 outstanding. So me and Danny will pick those up after the call, and we'll come back to you over the next 24 hours or so with answers to those specific questions. We should be able to cover those off pretty quickly. And really, I just wanted to say thank you very much, Danny, for putting your time aside and sharing your hints and tips and answering, I think, 13 or 14 questions. Really appreciated. Thank you even more, to a certain extent, sorry, Danny, to everybody who's come along to our first ChatTalent event. It's really appreciated. As I said, nerves, sleepless night, worried that it'll be me and Danny talking to an empty room, but I've been blown away by the support we've had from everybody. I really appreciate you being here, and look forward to you joining us for future events. So thank you very much, everybody.